What's up, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of the Stay True, Be Great podcast. I am your host, Jared Ogunbimi Jackson. We got a special guest on the pod today. This guy has been an 18-year professional basketball player. He did 3 years in the NBA playing for the Indiana Pacers when Larry Bird was his president. Played for Minnesota Timberwolves, played with guys like Kevin Garnett, Karl Anthony Towns, Zach LaVine. Also played for the Orlando Magic. He won multiple championships overseas, and he also played for the Croatian national team in the Olympics in 2008. So without further ado, the Croatian sniper, Damjan Rudez, welcome to the show.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you so much, man.
It's
Thanks,
good to
thanks a
have you,
lot for
man.
having me, and thanks for the great intro. It
For
feels
sure,
like
for sure.
I accomplished a lot when you say it like that. Sometimes I'm like, it seems like it was in another lifetime. So now when
Hey,
you
man,
say it like that,
I couldn't have had a better first guest, man. It had to be you. It had to be you.
great, man, great. I really appreciate it that you're having me on as the first guest. So hopefully it's going to be a great one.
For sure, for sure. One thing I'm excited about to really kick off this interview with you too. What I was thinking about earlier was that now the fact that you're retired, I feel like me asking you these questions about your career, you might have a different perspective now than when you were playing. Because you know how it is when you're playing, you're so
Completely,
focused,
man.
you're locked in. It's kind of tunnel vision a lot of times. But
Yeah,
now that you're retired, you're gonna look back on all your experiences. Or when I was 20,
yeah,
when I was 25, when I was 30. So
yeah,
just to
yeah.
kind of take it back in time, one of my first questions was just like, what was it like growing up in Croatia? When did you start playing basketball? When did you really start taking it seriously and said like, yo, this is something that I really want to do and maybe become a professional?
Yeah, well, I started because of my brother, whom you know very well. He was our coach
Hmm. Hmm.
in Groningen and Donar in a year together, and he was really a hell of a basketball player when he was young. He was really
Okay.
incredibly talented. So just watching him at age 6 or 7, he's
Hmm.
7 years older than me. So whatever he would have played, I would have played. If he would have picked
Right.
up like handball or ping pong, I would have probably followed his
Hmm.
way. So for me, it was all about following my older brother. And then I fell in love with the game and started playing, basically enrolled into like a little youth academy when I was 8
Hmm.
years old, right next to my house.
Hmm.
And, I figured like I was scoring a lot of points when I was a kid. So I figured like, hey, I'm pretty good at this. And
Hmm.
I already started having dreams like, hey, this is what I want to do. Like I want to score a lot
Nice.
of points. I want to make it to the NBA. You know how it is when you're a kid. You
So
see
you
Jordan.
had those you had those
Oh
dreams when
yeah,
you were
yeah,
younger. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Because
Nice.
my brother was a big Jordan fan, and you got to think like that was the '90s. So Jordan
Yeah.
was,
Prime.
everywhere. We had Jordan posters on the wall. My
Hmm.
brother was crazy about him and Scottie Pippen. So
Hmm.
for me, that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to play for the Chicago Bulls, and kind of, that's
Man.
I had my eyes set on being a basketball player. So, and not at one point in my life did I think like even as a kid like, hey, I'm going to do something else. Let me try something different. It was like
Okay.
full on focus, and
I
I
like
never
that.
really
I
knew
like
anything
that.
else. So it was really cool, man, because I never really had to question my choice, and it was very natural. That's one of the things that I really feel the most blessed with, that I never really had to
Hmm.
make that decision in terms of like,
Hmm.
hey, like how a lot of people are like, hey, do I want to be an engineer? Do I want to be a doctor? Do I
Yeah.
want to? So for me, it was like those are the things that I'm facing now at 36. Like, hey, what do I really want to
Which is
do?
which is good though. Which is good.
Yeah. So, but at a young age, I think that helped me out a lot because I was really full focused on basketball, and that was the only thing
Hmm.
I really uh, interest me. So I figured like, hey, I started feeling when I was like 13, 14, 15, you score like 30, 40,
Yeah.
you're kind of, you feel like you're better than
Hmm.
a lot of your peers, and you feel like, hey, there might be something there. So I just kind of follow that and
Man,
see, try to see where it take me.
I like that. So also with that, like you said that you're watching the Bulls a lot, with Scotty and with Jordan at the time, and obviously Tony Kukoc
Yeah,
eventually came on with the Bulls and was huge. He was a huge part of the Bulls, and
yeah,
he's a Croatian legend. So like, was he a big
yeah.
inspiration as well for you, or how did
Huge,
that kind
man.
of
He was, I mean, he was
coexist?
larger. He was really larger than life. And for Croatians in the '90s, him and Dražen Petrovic, they kind of took us to the silver medal in the '92 Olympics against
Hmm.
the original Dream Team.
Hmm.
So they were really gods in Croatia. And to see a guy that's 7 feet tall, basically handle the ball and do everything, he was kind of like
Yeah.
you know that versatile 1 to 5 before it
Hmm.
was before it was actually a trend in the NBA. He was
Hmm.
really ahead of his time, and he could do a whole lot of different things on the court with his size, and really smooth. And imagine how the world works. This is incredible. So, he was my idol. I always revered him. And now, a couple of months ago, when the 3BL project came to Croatia, they were like, "Hey, we need an ambassador, man. So we're gonna get Tony
Mm-hmm.
Kukoc." So I was like, "Are you serious?" So now imagine this: I'm the league commissioner of 3BL
Mm-hmm.
Croatia, and Tony Kukoc is the league ambassador. So I
Man,
had a chance to actually work with him, and
that's amazing.
just DM'd him on Instagram the other day about some 3BL related stuff, and we're going back and forth. And I'm like, man, this is incredible that I had a chance that now I actually have a chance to work with my childhood hero. He's in the
Man,
special advisor for the Bulls now, so he's living that good life. He's
right.
living in the States. He's a
Mm-hmm.
special advisor to Jerry Reinsdorf, and he made his
Mm-hmm.
life over there. He comes to Croatia occasionally, but
Okay.
just overall an incredible guy, and a huge idol of mine when I was growing up.
Man, that's amazing. That's what I always say is like follow your dreams, man, and give everything you
Yeah,
can to it because you never know, where your journey is going to take you.
yeah,
And I feel
yeah,
like, something that you mentioned earlier, just about you being so focused on, hey, I want to make it to the NBA, and a lot. If you say that at a young age, a lot of
yeah,
teachers or parents they might tell you not to. But my goal and my thing that I always said to myself was like, have one plan A and don't
yeah,
stray away from it. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like that's what you were saying. Because
yeah.
to me, it's like if you know you're good at something and you have a deep, deep passion for it,
Exactly.
why not give 150% towards it and
Yeah,
just see where it takes you, And you're a
exactly, man.
prime example of that. And looking where
Yeah,
your
yeah,
journey has taken you, and now you're working with your idols and you're involved in
yeah,
all of
yeah.
these things. So like
No,
that's an amazing thing.
no, it's really true, man. It's all about giving, 150%, not 110. But you know how it is. When we worked out, we always talk about it. Like, and you were
Mm-hmm.
one of the guys that always goes super hard. Like, you never took
Mm-hmm.
one shot for granted. I remember you working out on your shots, and you were always
Mm-hmm.
like locked in. You shooting it right. So that's the only way to do it. I mean, that's at least the only way I know how to do it because it brought
Mm-hmm.
me good results in my basketball career. So I figured I would just implement the same kind of blueprint in the other stage of my life and see where it takes me.
For sure. So following like what you said was that you didn't end up going to college when you were younger. So for the people in North America who don't really understand, can you explain just a little bit how professional basketball and youth basketball works when you start getting to those ages of 16, 17, 18, where you have to decide if you're going to play for a professional team or go to school or not, because it's much different than it is in
Much
the States
different.
and in Canada. So can you explain
It's
that a
much
little bit?
different. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a good side to it and a bad side. So the good side is if you're a 15-year-old kid and you have talent and you kind of, a little bit better than the rest of your peers and you're kind of standing out with talent and with physicalities, they're going to put you in the first team. So you're going to be playing
Mm-hmm.
professional basketball with 15 when you're 15, which is an incredible experience because that's what happened to me. Like I joined my first team and when I was 16, and I was playing against guys that were 38 years old, and they were, throwing elbows, and they were
Grown
really
man.
being physical with me. Grown men, dude, grown men. They're getting paid to do their job,
Mm-hmm.
and they
Mm-hmm.
don't care about a 16-year-old
Mm-hmm.
kid or how much talent you have. So to have that experience, that's something you really can't pay. You can't put a price on that, because you get a chance to,
Mm-hmm.
really feel the real game and to kind of get acquainted with the concept of professionalism, and that's something that's really
Mm-hmm.
valuable. But basically, it's all about youth categories. You have under 14, under 16, under 18, and then under 20. Under 20 is probably going to be like a development team for the guys that are kind of on the verge of
Right.
breaking into the first team, the professional team. But a lot of teams, they don't even have their under 20 team because they might not have a great youth program. So depending on the city, depending on
Right.
the league, depending on the team, it's going to be hit or miss. There's known teams that
Mm-hmm.
have their academies, like obviously Barcelona and Real Madrid. They're trying to sign every kid that has talent, even when
Excuse
they're
me.
like 12 or 13, like Luka Doncic or
Exactly.
a
Yeah.
lot of guys. They just bring them over there, and then it's basically a bloodbath because all those kids, they got to kind of
Yeah.
find a way to make a name for themselves, and the competition is huge because
But
you got to think
but at
of
the
all.
same time, that's sorry to cut you off, but at the same time,
Yeah,
that's also introducing you at a young age to what it's going to be as a professional anyways, the cutthroatness, the
yeah,
every detail matters, every foot jab step matters, like the
every
physicality, the business aspect. So learning
yeah,
that at a young age, I'm sure
absolutely,
helps as
man,
well.
absolutely. It's ruthless, man. It's cutthroat, so it really is. So, but I mean, if you
Hmm.
manage to kind of pull through it, it really gives you a lot of experience, and you're kind of in a good situation to to start your professional journey. The bad side is once you have to make that decision in an academic sense, there's not a lot of options for you. You can kind of be an outstanding, or I don't even know how you say it. Like you can be a student or enroll into like a business school, but you don't attend class like every day, but you kind of go sometimes, or they kind of allow you to do it online. But it's hard, man. Once you're in the basketball program, you know how it is. The 2 days, you got to rest between practices. You got to get ready for games. You got to eat right. So a lot of guys, they don't really have the bandwidth to kind of follow something else alongside being a professional basketball player. So it really doesn't make it easy for you to kind of follow that academic path. So now I'm happy that I enrolled into it when I'm done. So now I have all the time in the world. So I'm like, okay, I can be a college student when I'm 36, just because I can go to class, I can kind of do this and that while you're practicing and playing. It's basically impossible. I know some guys that did it. I mean, Thomas Kunis, he did it when we played together. Our former captain. He kind of, did a little business school. He really tried and was persistent with it. But, more often than not, guys kind of, they can't do it in Europe, because especially if you're changing leagues and changing countries every year, you know how it is. I mean, you've been through it. You changed so many countries so far in your career. It's kind of hard to keep that consistency and to stay focused on that part of your life. So that's the downside. That's what I think that American system really brings the best out of guys, and it gives you a chance to experience professionalism in terms of like, hey, you're playing college in front of 20,000 people. So there's like pressure. You're on national television, but at the same time, you got to be good in school. So and you get your degree. So it's very different. It's very different.
But at the same time, I think we can say that especially if you look at the NBA now, there's so many more. And I know you were part of that. That first wave of international players that started coming to the NBA, like. Putting those kids through that rigor that young, now look at what it's producing. You're getting international players every year in the draft coming in from overseas, from the EuroLeague. Like now the game is so international. And I think we have to give credit to some of these countries that are definitely developing these players at such a young age. You know what I mean? Like it's complete, like you said, it's completely different than Canada or the States were, but from a young age, you're learning the fundamentals of the game, the business aspect of the game, all of that. So it's definitely shown,
Yeah. I mean, you've seen it in Europe all around. Coaches really pay different attention to details, and they're going to, try to form you as a complete basketball player, whereas in the States, it's going to be more focused like, oh, hey, are you a scorer? Like, can you score the ball? It's important to score 50 in your AAU games, because if you score 50 when you're 14, you get endorsement by, Nike or Adidas already, and then you have a good chance to go to scholarship and this and that. So, I don't feel like really high school kids are getting developed properly. I mean, it's hard to say properly, but, we have different perspectives. The Europeans think, the European way is good, but then Americans or the NBA, they're going to bring a player in young and kind of, tailor him to the needs and the requirements of the NBA, which is also good, because you want to get used to the speed of the game. You want to, get your muscles. You want to get used to the athleticism. So I would say, getting that European fundamentals of basketball in terms of like, hey, dribbling, passing, like you got to know everything. You can't just know how to shoot the ball or score. So I feel like that's really, it helped me out a lot in my career. And, so yeah, it's just different, different games and different systems of bringing players up.
For sure. So I had one more question. That's an interesting one. I've played for Serbian coaches. I've played with Serbian players, played with Croatian players, coaches like yourself. What is it about that Eastern European mentality, that toughness, that grit? A lot of players say that some players can't handle, playing for a Serbian coach or Croatian coach or Latvian, or what is it about the development in those countries that you guys are just gritty, tough-minded? You see it at every level. You see that they're not afraid to play. They're not afraid to fail. They have a different kind of mental toughness. Where does that come from?
Well, I would say there's two kind of aspects, two answers to that question. First of all, the whole, line of coaching, the Serbian, the Croatian line, the Yugoslavian line, the Lithuanian line, it basically hails from, Soviet Union and the military system. That's how it all trickled down to us as well. You want to have that Red Army mentality, like, 10-hour practices and, military training camps. that's where it all started, and it kind of, that was our culture, our sports
Right.
culture. It wasn't light, it
Mhm.
wasn't like friendly or uh, I don't know even know what the proper word is to say it, but it was very kind of structured and heavy. It wasn't meant to provide you with entertainment or to be fun. It was meant to win championships, and it wasn't anything comfortable. Nothing
Mhm.
comfortable in it. So that's the mindset that was kind of implemented in our culture, in our sports culture, through from the 50s and 60s and 70s, through the
Right.
effect of the Soviet Union. And then another part of the answer would be like, we were never rich countries. It was you know there was more hunger than
For
not. So
sure. For
people, not that
sure.
people are starving.
Yeah.
It's not like we're third world countries, but it wasn't
Mhm.
really like you're brought up in France or Germany where you always have like some sort of opportunities or
Mhm.
good backgrounds. Of course, there were always rich people here, but in general, people have that kind of if I fail, it's a question of life and death,
Right.
mentality
Edge
here.
to
It
him.
wasn't
Mhm.
like I always compared it to players from France and Germany in some way because I played there as well, and you can see the
Mhm.
kids, they're not as hungry because they're always gonna have a good job, like
Mhm.
regardless. Like even if you don't make
Mhm.
it in basketball when you're 16, 17, if you finish any school and you live in France, let alone Monaco or Germany or like a good
Exactly.
a Western European country, you're not going to be hungry.
Mhm.
Whereas Serbians and Croatians, the perspective is kind of different. Like, hey, if I don't make it in basketball, like I might really struggle in life. So that kind of gives you that
Yeah.
certain edge to where like you know.
Mhm.
And then actually the third part of the equation is like there's a lot of history of success in our country. So you
Mhm.
kind of have that standard you kind of always expected to maintain because Croatians and Serbians in Yugoslavia actually there was a joint country. It was always very successful in sports and in basketball
Mhm.
especially. So then you're kind of
Mhm.
brought up in their culture where failure is not even an option because
It's not an
older
option.
generations they won medals, they won the gold.
For
So
sure.
now like you can't just go to European Championship and not win a medal even though you're like
Mhm.
a super small country. There's 4
Mhm.
million Croatians, and compared to other countries, it's
Yeah.
not real. It's not realistic that we go anywhere and we'll win a medal. I would
Mhm.
say it's an exception, and we kind of
Mhm.
embraced it as a general rule. Like, oh,
Is a
we have
general
to.
rule.
So that's the
Yeah.
kind of the flip side of that mentality is like people get disappointed when you go and you don't win a medal. For example, like the soccer national team, they won
Yeah.
silver in the last World Cup and bronze
Mhm.
at this World Cup, which is, I mean, defies all
It's
the laws of
amazing.
logic. There's
It's
4
amazing.
million people living in Croatia, dude,
Yeah.
and we're talking about soccer, which is the biggest
Yeah.
game in the world.
For
So
sure.
now, next time when the Croatian soccer team goes to any championship, if they come back without the medal, it's going to be, you
It's like
know,
a failure.
utter failure, of course.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the mentality we have, and that's the way we brought up, and that's something you can say if it's good or bad, but it's just the way it is. Just
Man, I have so much. Like when I first got overseas and I was experienced to it, obviously I was kind of taken aback. Like, yo, why is this guy or why is this coach or why is this? But obviously playing with them and spending time
yeah,
with them and understanding that, and this is another thing I say about this life is that you get to experience so many different kind of people that come from so many different kind of
yes,
backgrounds and you appreciate it. And me as a basketball player, professional basketball player, it's my passion, just like you. This is what I love to do. And to
yeah,
see somebody else who takes it that serious, like I have so much appreciation and respect for it. And I
yeah,
think the rest of the world should too, because it's a different mindset, you know what I mean? And you can't
completely
judge
different.
the other country because of,
Yeah,
what they may or may not have gone through, because it's different than what,
yeah, yeah.
another
But
upbringing is, right?
yeah,
So,
exactly. But listen, I had a huge issue with myself because when I got to Spain for the first time,
mhm,
Spanish system is completely different. So
completely different.
100%, different than
Yeah.
what I come from. And then
Hmm.
I would come to Spain and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, why aren't people nervous after we lose a game? You lose a
Hmm.
game. I mean, we lost one example. I play for Zaragoza.
Right.
And, my first game, we're playing against Valencia away. And
Hmm.
Valencia,
Hmm.
their budget is like 10 times bigger than ours. So
Right.
nobody's actually expecting us to win the game. And we lose a
Hmm.
game, and I'm silent in the bus. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. Like, they're going to hate
Hmm.
my ass now. After
Hmm.
5 minutes, people are eating pizza, sodas, laughing, joking. There's music
Yeah.
on the bus. Coach is laughing. Like GM is laughing. I'm like, holy shit, like what is going on? Like how can this be
yeah.
possible? But Spanish
Hmm.
way of life and Spanish mentality and especially
It's
their sports
completely
culture is
different.
completely different. So, but
Yeah.
listen to this: Spaniards are world champions. Like they're ranked number
Hmm.
one in the
Hmm.
FIBA,
In the FIBA
world
world, yeah.
rankings. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, who's to say that Yugoslavian way is better than the Spanish way? Obviously, they're doing it right. You know what I mean? So who's to
Hmm.
say that ours is good and yours is not? There's so many different routes
Hmm.
to success. It's all about finding your own. But I struggle with it a lot because you're accustomed to a certain way of thinking and a certain way of
Hmm.
operating. And then when you see something different, it kind of strikes you like as odd. Like, hey,
Yeah,
why are they not doing it like we are doing it? What is
for
right and
sure.
what is wrong. So it just
For
it
sure.
took me a while to get used to it.
Man. All
Yeah.
right, so let's move forward a little bit. I got a lot of questions to ask that I hope we got enough time to get through
No,
all of
man,
them.
we
So
got all the time. I just got to plug my laptop into the charger and uh, change my position. But yeah, we good,
yeah,
man.
that's interesting. All right,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so
The
my
things
so
is
my next question is your first championship overseas was in Belgium with Ostente. What
yeah.
what do you remember about that season? What do you remember about that championship? And also, I believe that would have been your first time playing in a different country because prior to that you were playing in Croatia, if I'm not mistaken. So, what was that experience like
Ooh,
for you?
yeah, yeah. Man, it was bittersweet for me because I didn't play, and we
Ah,
won the
okay.
championship. And
Yeah.
I was, 19-year-old kid. I moved away from home to go play in Belgium, and it was
Mm-hmm.
really ruthless, man. It was like 8 foreigners on the team. Oh, by the way, the viewers are gonna love the cloud,
Yeah, I see it. It's looking
the
nice. I
cloud.
like
I'm
it.
in my daughter's room, so
No
uh,
worries.
but yeah. So it was like 8 foreigners on the team, and each one is getting paid a lot of money, and it was
Yeah.
really and for a young kid to experience that, it really formed me as a man and as a basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
Taught me a lot, but I didn't have no playing time, and
Yeah.
here I am thinking like, hey, I'm the shit, like I'm a talented
Yeah.
Croatian kid. I should be playing 30 minutes, but I'm making so many mistakes. Like I wasn't ready for productive playing
Mm-hmm.
time. Looking in hindsight, and
Right.
when we won the championship against Mons, I started crying. I was overwhelmed. Like I was so sad and happy at the same time. I'm like, it was my first championship, but I
That's
didn't play
tough.
1 minute in the final, dude. Like 0 minutes,
Yeah.
and
That's tough.
it was tough, man. I'm telling you, happy and sad at the same time. It was
Yeah.
a
Ah.
very weird feeling, very weird feeling. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let this happen ever again. I
Mm-hmm.
definitely want to play. I want to go somewhere where I can play and kind of
Mm-hmm.
see what I can do and contribute. Because you know how it is when you're a kid, you feel like you have so much to give and your
Of
talent is
course.
not used. Then it was so it was bittersweet for me, but it was a good experience.
Wow, that's interesting because I'm
Yeah,
looking at all the accolades and everything. I'm assuming, man, it's his first championship. I'm sure would have been great, but that just
yeah,
shows the reality of professional sports. That
yeah,
you may win, but at the same time,
exactly.
winning sometimes is yourself playing well as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's a big part. So
exactly.
moving forward after that, you get called up as a replacement in 2008 for the Croatian national team to go to the Beijing Olympics,
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken. So
yes.
tell me about Beijing, the experience. I mean, we're
I
talking Usain Bolt, we're talking Michael
man,
Phelps, we're talking Team
yeah,
USA with Kobe and Braun
yeah,
and Dwight. Like, what was that
man.
experience like, man? What was that
I just
experience
wish
like?
we would have been in a group with the United States because then we would have had a chance to play them. Like this, I saw
Mm-hmm.
them in the opening ceremony and around the Olympic Village, but it's a unique experience, man. I can't even tell
Mm-hmm.
you. And I was the last guy to make the roster
Right.
because a guy on my position got injured.
Mm-hmm.
So just to be there, the opening ceremony had 100,000 people in the stadium, and Yao Ming carrying the Chinese flag. I
Yeah.
still have videos on my old phone, and I still have the newspapers from the local newspapers from when Bolt broke all the records, and Phelps.
Mm-hmm.
He also took like I think 7 or 8 gold medals. It was insane, man. The level of
Yeah.
organization was something I've never seen before in my life.
Mm-hmm.
We made it to the quarterfinals, man, with Spain, and then Spain
Mm-hmm.
beat us, or 16 finals. Oh, uh, and then Spain beat us. They blew us out by 20 points. So we kind of ended the tournament early. They went on to play the finals against the redeemed team,
The
the
redeem
redeemed
team.
team.
Yep.
But listen, I got a crazy story for you, man. The opening
Yep.
ceremony, right? So we're on the stadium. There's kind of rows being formed, and each team has their own little, standing room where they're, because it takes forever. It's like 5 hours long. You're
It's a
there. You're
long
soaked in
time.
sweat. The humidity is huge. It was hot out, and Team USA was kind of a couple of couple of those barriers away from us in a
Hmm.
different section, couple of sections away from us. So
Hmm.
someone from my team, they're like, hey, I figured out where the Team USA is. Let's go grab some photos because
Hmm.
you have all the time in the world and everyone is there and they're kind of chilling. So I see Kobe, and
Right.
Kobe's there standing, isolated from the team, just standing, and there's like tens and tens of people just revolving around him taking photos. So it's
Hmm.
like it's not like, hey Kobe, can I take a photo? It's like he's
Right.
there and people are just rotating, and there's gonna be
Yeah.
like four people taking photos with Kobe at the same time. So my photo with Kobe has like right next to me is like a Jamaican runner, like a Polish volleyball player, like an Italian,
There's
javelin
no
thrower.
one-on-one photos with Kobe.
No, there's no one-on-one photos with Kobe. Kobe doesn't change his pose, so I gotta show you that photo, dude. It was insane. I still have it.
Oh
I still
man,
have it somewhere in the house. So it's like
that's
me and five
hilarious.
other people and Kobe in the middle. And then as we're doing it, we're kind of just changing around him the whole time, and he's not changing his facial expression. He's like a statue. He's like,
Yeah.
so he's probably been there for like 15
2
minutes, and
hours.
people are like, "There's no one-on-one photos with Kobe, man."
Oh
and
my
and it was
gosh.
funny. I just handed someone the photo. You had the old photo cameras. I was like, "Hey, can you take some photos?" And it was like five different people around him, just close to him. So and
Man.
for me, it was great. I ended up playing against him, and I have some good photos of playing against Kobe on the court when we played LA.
Hmm.
Played him a couple of times, guarded him a few times, so it was insane.
Hmm.
But yeah, the Olympics were great, man. It was just a unique experience. I've been to European Championships, the World Cup,
Hmm.
Mediterranean Games, you name it. But Olympics are a whole nother beast, man.
Man, that's amazing. Like for
Yeah.
me, the only thing that comes close to that is FISU Games, and obviously FISU Games is not the Olympics,
Okay.
but it's the university games for the Olympics. It's the Olympics of
Yeah.
university games,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I was able to do that in South Korea. So I think there was over 70,000 athletes. It's a simulation of the Olympics, but it's
Yeah.
obviously not the
Yeah.
Olympics. And I can honestly say, for the intro, when you're walking across that stage, across that track, man, and let's say there was at least 60, 70,000 people in the stands,
Yeah.
and I heard my anthem and we're carrying the flag. For me personally, that was the first time where I was like, yo, like
Yes.
I'm proud to be Canadian,
Yes.
or wherever you're
Absolutely, man.
from. Like in school, sometimes before school when we were younger, you always hear
Mhm.
the anthem. You don't really,
Yeah.
but that time I heard
Yeah.
the anthem, man, and I'm
Yes.
walking around and I'm like, I'm one of these people. And this is only university, right? So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
only imagine for you, like
Man.
that was just an
But
amazing experience, and I can
imagine
only
winning.
imagine,
Imagine winning the medal in the Olympics. Like
man.
I can't even imagine that, man. You're listening to
Hmm.
your anthem, and you're there. It must be like surreal.
And
So
the whole country is watching you as well.
yeah,
So that's
yeah, yeah.
that's
It
that's
was
that's crazy.
it was really good, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so moving forward, not too long after that, you ended up signing with Zaragoza, like you mentioned a little bit early. That's a
Hmm.
big team. ACB, widely known as the best domestic league outside of the NBA.
For sure.
You're starting to get, I'm assuming, a lot of confidence in your game. What do you remember from your time in Zaragoza, playing in the ACB, and how did you feel as a basketball player? Because, like you said, even when you're in Belgium, you won a championship, but you didn't play.
Yeah.
You had to work your way to get to that
Yeah.
stage. How did you feel as a player at that time, and what was your experience like playing the ACB?
Man, in the ACB, it was a perfect storm for us as a team because we signed like six or seven guys, and myself included, that were all first time in the ACB and all hungry to prove themselves. So you
Mm-hmm.
need that in like a team, and we were all in the kind of, I don't want to say like young players, but we were all between like 24 and 27.
Yeah,
Like good age. Like you got to prove
yeah, it's a
yourself.
good
You're in the
age.
ACB. Like it's a good time to enter the ACB because you're hungry. You want to prove yourself. You want
Mm-hmm.
to have a good season and then go on to,
Mm-hmm.
Real Madrid or Barcelona. So we had a lot of guys like that on the team. And we
Mm-hmm.
were really like a working squad, man. We had Michael Roll on the team, who was, fantastic shooter, went to UCLA, had a hell of a career afterwards in the EuroLeague.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Van Rossum, who ended up playing for Valencia for 10 years, won, many European titles with them. Um, so a lot of good guys. But for me personally, it was a first true test of like, hey, this is the best league. Let me see what I can do. I had
Mm-hmm.
a good fortune of playing against some Spanish teams in Euro Cup in
Right.
previous years when I played for
Mm-hmm.
Croatian teams, and
Mm-hmm.
I scored a couple of times like 35 points, 20 points,
Mm-hmm.
30 points. So I could be like, I kind of had a feeling like, hey, I can do it. Like if I can score 35 points on Gran Canaria, and they're
Right.
third or fourth in Spain, like no reason
Mm-hmm.
for me to doubt myself. But all of a
Exactly.
sudden, you got to play, teams like that and even stronger, like on a regular basis. So that kind of gives you the first test. And my first game, literally the first game I got there, we are playing Real Madrid in the Super Cup.
Man.
And I'm like, man, I'm nervous. I can't sleep before the game. They
Mm-hmm.
have a squad, man. Rudy Fernandez, when he was super healthy, Sergio Llull,
Prime.
prime Sergio Llull, prime Sergio Rodriguez,
Mm-hmm.
prime everybody, dude. Like I mean, I don't know how many games they lost that year, but not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And we're playing it. I'm like, all right, let's just see what I can do. And I scored 17 points that game.
Yeah.
We lost in the last couple of minutes, but it gave me a huge boost because that first impression is really
Of
important. And
course.
once I came out, it was my kind of my coming out party, and I could tell that the reactions of the press were good. My teammates, my coaches were happy with the way I played. So I was like, okay, I got this. And then
Mm-hmm.
the thing about ACB is like certain teams, well, actually, a lot of teams, coaches don't really want guys scoring 30 points a game or playing 30 minutes a game. It's
That's what I
very
see by the
equal.
statistics.
It's very equal, man. Like
Yeah.
we had 8 foreigners, everyone making pretty much the same amount of money. So it wasn't like we had one guy making half a mil and then everybody else kind of,
Mm-hmm.
we were all in the same pay grade. So, there's
Mm-hmm.
no reason for you to think that you have a right to shoot the
Yeah.
ball more than I do, or we're
Yeah.
all on the same level and coach is playing us the same minutes. So it's kind of hard, man. I had games where I had, you know, 3 shot attempts,
Mm-hmm.
4 shot attempts, and
Yeah.
then you have a certain game and it's like 8 or 9 shot attempts, and you're like, oh, whoa, like why can't I have
Yeah.
this all the time? Because it's a huge difference. Then you're kind
For
of between
sure.
like 15 or 20 points, and like this year between 4 and 6 points. Like who's going to
For
notice me if
sure.
I keep scoring 4 points a game?
Exactly.
So it was really challenging to get used to the basketball culture there, but it's the closest thing to the NBA that you can experience in terms of coverage, the respect that they have for basketball players there, the
Mm-hmm.
fans, the just the overall sports culture in Spain is unbelievable. I was so blessed to have a chance to see it because people really respect athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Kids on the street, people, the way press carries themselves around you, just so it was really great. The playing in the ACB was really fantastic for me, and we had a good team, so we ended up basically third behind Real Madrid and Barcelona. We beat
Wow.
Valencia
That's
regularly. We beat Unicaja regularly. We haven't won a championship or the Copa del Rey. We played the semifinals a lot of times, but we were good, man. We were beating those guys on a regular basis, and I had a good fortune of playing some good games, and then kind of caught the eye of NBA scouts, and
for
and
sure.
and I had a chance to get called up.
For sure. So
Yeah,
that's yeah, I like to hear that. And just
yeah,
a
man.
quick note, like I know, you know, you speak a little Spanish too. So how was it
Yeah,
off the court in Spain, like in learning Spanish? Because when I played in Spain, I took classes as well,
I'll,
two times a week and learned some Spanish as well. So
yeah. So
Spain is definitely a wonderful country.
listen what happened. On my first day there, I'm having my introductory press conference, and we're on the court. So it's me and my teammates are kind of getting warmed up for practice, sitting on the sidelines and this and that. And there's tons of reporters. Cameras are all over the place, and they're getting ready to interview me and a couple of other guys that we signed. So one of the reporters, he came up to me and he pointed at an American that was there for a couple of years already. And he was like, ah, look at
Hmm.
that asshole. Like he's been here for 3 years and doesn't speak a word of Spanish.
Doesn't speak Spanish. Yeah.
Like just caught me off guard. I was like, holy shit. Like I don't want to have
Yeah.
someone talking about me like that.
Of
And,
course.
I could tell that it was really important for them to have players
Hmm.
speak Spanish. And plus, like coach didn't speak really great English. So everything was in
Hmm.
Spanish. So I hired a tutor the next day. I was like, I'm gonna
Next
give it a
day.
next day. Next day. I was like, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
wait. And then, middle of the season around Christmas, I held my first press conference after the game, my post game press
Mm.
conference in Spanish. it was broken Spanish. It was ugly as hell, but he got the job
Still.
done, and it showed a huge sign of respect from my side to the culture and
Hmm.
the country, and it really meant a lot because they really appreciated it, and I got better. My teammates helped me out a lot, but it's very valuable, man, because you got to speak the language of the locker room. It kind of
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. It means a lot and it helps out a lot. And it also gave me a chance to form friendships with the local guys. I'm still
Hmm.
really close friends with a lot of them. We still keep in touch. So it kind of expanded my mind and helped out a lot.
For sure.
Yeah, man.
That's even a portion that I never even really consider. It's just like how it is when you're overseas as a
Yeah,
player. If you
yeah,
don't speak the language, you might not have anything wrong with your teammates, but if you can't really communicate with them, it's tough to build a friendship, right? So I know for
yeah,
me, speaking French and at the time I was speaking a little bit of Spanish.
yeah,
I need to touch up on my Spanish now, but it enabled me to be able to talk with them and to
yeah.
kind of form some kind of relationship with which obviously
Exactly.
we know translates to the basketball court,
Yeah,
so that's
yeah.
a big thing. But
Exactly.
so moving forward, not too long after that,
Yeah,
your time in Zaragoza, now NBA scouts are talking to you and you get a chance to work out for the Indiana Pacers when
yeah,
Larry Bird was the president of the team, and also the Cavaliers. So you get a chance to potentially, who
yeah,
knows, end up playing with Braun at the time,
yeah.
or make the Indiana Pacers. So like, how did that come about? What do you remember about that time? And
Well,
when you did those workouts, you got Larry Bird in the stands, and you might
yeah.
be playing for the Cavaliers. Like, what's going through your mind at that time? Like,
Man, it was
what's
it was
going through your mind?
it was crazy because I didn't think it was gonna come around to that. I was playing really well in Zaragoza, and I had another year on my contract, so I'm really full of confidence. And I'm thinking like, okay, even if I don't end up going to the NBA, I have a safe place, back home in Spain, and I'm
Right.
for sure gonna have some high level European teams interested in signing me. So like, I'm good. I'm like, whatever happens, happens. But still, like, you wanna make the most out of that opportunity. And
Mm-hmm.
while I was having conversations with my agent, he was like, they want to bring you over there for a couple of workouts. And I was like, I don't want to go there for, a week and then work out and get disappointed. Like, if they really want to sign me, like, they know how I play, they can just send the contract. They're like,
Yeah.
no, they got to see you and, how you move on the court. They want to meet you. They want to have dinner with you. So I'm like, okay, it would be stupid to pass up this opportunity just because of like an
Mm-hmm.
ego trip or whatever. Like, I
For
definitely want to
sure.
make the NBA. And so I went there. I worked out for the Cavaliers for 3 days, and they picked Wiggins first in the draft, just a
Mm-hmm.
couple of years prior to that. So you got to think like that was a week before LeBron came back.
Yeah, his decision. Yeah.
So I had no idea that LeBron was coming back to Cleveland. Like, no, they didn't know what they were going to do with the franchise. David Griffin, who
Mm-hmm.
was the GM at the time, he was like, "I love your game. Every time you shoot the ball, I feel like it's going in. But we really have a
Mm-hmm.
lot going on. Like, I have no idea what's going to happen with the team. We're getting ready to
Mm-hmm.
do some big moves." He didn't tell me what it was, but
Yeah.
couple of days after that, it's like boom, LeBron is coming back. They traded half away, half the team away. So it makes sense for them not to sign me at that point because I don't think it would even be good for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go to work out with Indiana, and it was surreal, man, because those NBA workouts, you're gonna have like three or four guys next to you. You're gonna have like
Mm-hmm.
3 on 3 or 2 on 2. You're gonna be set up with
Mm-hmm.
another guy. And for me, it wasn't like that. Like, I walked in the arena and I was by my damn self, man. And
Really?
I'm walking into the practice facility, getting ready to do a workout, and there's Larry Bird sitting on a chair. There's Kevin Pritchard, who's the GM.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 10 other front office execs. There's a whole scouting squad. There's like 20 people in the stands, in the bleachers,
Mm-hmm.
and a
Mm-hmm.
whole coaching staff and the video coordinators on the court. So there's like 10 people on the court and 20 people, on the sidelines. And I'm the only guy walking in.
Wow.
So I'm like, holy shit, like, this is going to be like, this is either going to make me or break me. Like, I was really feeling
Yeah.
good about myself because I knew
Mm-hmm.
how well I played, how physically prepared I was. But still, like, that 3 point line is so far out, bro. And I'm a shooter,
Mm-hmm.
so I know I'm heading into a shooting practice. And
For sure.
after my season in Zaragoza, I had like probably like a week or two to prepare, and I was kind of trying to shoot it from way out. But
Yeah.
that NBA 3 point line, man, that nothing can get
It's
you used to
different.
that.
Yeah.
Especially like when your legs are gone. Like it's okay, like if you catch it and shoot it, but if you got to shoot it on the move and you're not used to that, balls are flying all over the place. So, but in that particular workout, I really killed it. I really played well. I mean, played well. I showcased my skills well. I was moving well. I was full of confidence and shot the ball really well. And Larry Bird was just walking around the court like, like a shadow moving in the corners, just looking at me from all angles. And I'm like, oh man, this guy's really like looking at me and, I got to do well. And Frank Vogel is on the court leading the workout. He's the head coach at the time. And he's, we're shooting some shit and, making jokes. And he was really trying to relax me. And I really embraced it. And I was like, all right, whatever happens is going to happen.
Right.
And immediately after the whistle blew and like the practice is over, Larry Bird comes up to me and grabs me by the hand. It was really awkward because he didn't like shake my hand. He kind of grabbed me like this, like he was like he grabbed me like this and pulled me on the side and he kind of whispered in my ear. He was like, "I'm gonna make you an Indiana Pacer. Like we're signing you today. Like you're staying here. Like cancel all your workouts. It's done. Like you're a Pacer. I'm calling your agent." And I was so confused. I tapped him on the shoulder. I was like, all right, Larry. Like I gave him a little tap. Like I didn't know what to say. So I go in the locker room. I kind of started to relax a little bit. George Hill walks in after me. My former teammate. I mean, he was going to be my teammate. He was like, hey, you really killed it. Like, I'm so happy you came. We need a shooter like you and this and that. Larry Bird really loves your game. So I'm like, okay, what's going to happen? Like, am I getting a contract? Is this true? Is this not true? Like, what if this is a false promise? Then I'm like, it's Larry Bird. Like, yeah, like for sure Larry Bird is not going to tell me something like that and then just kind of, change the story. But in the NBA, there's this thing. So say like I did the workout beginning of June. I want to say like June 10th. And, the moratorium in the NBA, it doesn't allow you to sign free agents until like mid-July, dude.
Yeah.
So I gotta wait for a whole month, and I'm going back home for vacation with a promise in my hand. But it's still like it's his word. Like I have no paper, like no guarantee. So my agent calls me up a couple of days after that, and he tells me the numbers, and we kind of negotiated the contract, and we agreed to terms. But still, I didn't sign the contract. So I'm still a player for Zaragoza, and I'm going back home, and I'm like, is this going to happen? Is this not going to happen? Like, what did they sign someone else? So I'm not sleeping for like 3 weeks, dude. And, I can't even go out because I have a medical waiting for me. Because if I got to go and sign there, I got to pass the medical test first.
Yeah.
So I'm trying not to go out. What if I get sick? What if I, what is this? What is that? Like 1,000 questions going through my mind. I can't really live my life at all. And I'm supposed to be like enjoying because,
That's mental warfare right there.
Oh my God. My wife was going crazy at the time. She was like, I mean, we didn't know what to think. So listen, it was a funny story because we're in a restaurant and my agent called me up the night before and he was like, tomorrow the moratorium is, lifted and, all the new free agents that are going to get signed is going to get published. And, we're starting to get the ball rolling. So it's going to happen. And at the time, Adrian Wojnarowski, like Woj, right?
Yeah.
He's tweeting about who's signing and, this team is going to sign this guy. So once Woj tweets it, like it's legit.
You pretty much know.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm in a restaurant refreshing my Twitter feed, not even trusting my agent. I'm like, until I see, fucking a tweet from Woj with my name in it, like I'm not trusting any of this. I'm not believing any of this. So we're in a Carpaccio, local restaurant. I still remember where we were sitting, and it was like, all right, Woj tweet like Indiana Pacers came to terms, like 3-year contract with Croatian forward Damjan Rudez, and I'm like, all right, that's it. We're going to the NBA. So and it was surreal, man. I'm telling you, because it's not over. You know how it is in this business, man.
Yeah.
Like until you sign the contract, like how many
and things could change. Things could change.
Things change overnight, man.
Yeah.
And they flew me over there first class the next day. I passed the medical, signed my contract, and then it was great after that.
Man, that's hilarious.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man. I was
trusting Woj more than your agent, but I mean, hey, he's 100% for 100%. He's never missed, right?
He never missed. He never missed. So like,
oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So how was your? I mean, I've obviously done my research and saw you play, and watch your highlights, and to me, it seemed like Indiana was the place that you were most comfortable as far as some of the minutes you're playing. It's also on a team that, like you said, prior to PG Paul George's injury, it was a contender, right? It was a team that was going to be looking to contend. So I know that's good for you. You had a big game against Orlando Magic when you had 16 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
hit some threes, got a little dunk. What do you remember about that game? And for you, was that like man, I made it. I'm here. I'm from Croatia. You know what I mean?
Ooh.
It took me so long to get. What do you remember about that game and that moment?
I'll tell you what I remember. We lost 7 in a row before that, so we're really struggling. And I'm kind of in the rotation, and I'm not in the rotation. I'm fighting for the minutes with Chris Copeland. So he was my kind of competition, and sometimes he plays, sometimes I play. So early in the game, I see that I'm going to play because Vogel puts me in the first quarter. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to have my minutes, and I missed first 2 or 3 3-point attempts, and I missed them, and I was like, oh man, like this is going to be like I'm not going to get any more playing time, and they were open, and they all felt good. And I was like, man, I'm really struggling. And I shot maybe like 22 or 23% from the three up to that point because I was getting adjusted to the 3-point line. I really didn't have my legs underneath me. My elbow was in the wrong position. People are really contesting my shots well. Guys are athletic, man. They're long. Like when those guys come at you and, close out, a lot of times it's really different than Europe. In Europe, if you get your shot off quick, nobody's really going to contest it like that.
Nobody's going to block it.
Yeah, while here you have Giannis Antetokounmpo flying at you with his 8-foot wingspan, and all of a sudden he's messing up my shot. So, and then Vogel decides to keep me in for some reason. He decided to trust me. He was like, I'm just going to keep him in there until he starts making them. And little did I know, like all of a sudden I get a couple of open shots in transition and they start feeling good. And they're up like Orlando was up like 15 or 20 at the time. So we're en route to lose that game. And I hit a couple of threes, we get hot, all of a sudden guys are trying to round me off the line and I have open lanes to the basket. So things just kind of naturally opened up, and before you know it, we're in a tight game, like a couple of minutes to go. And I'm still on the court. I'm, really exhausted because I got to play defense on Tobias Harris, on Aaron Gordon, who's, a super physical rookie at the time. So I got to, bang with all those guys, fight for rebounds and box out and this and that. And I'm just happy to be on the court. And shot is feeling good. And, before you know, we're in a tie game a couple of seconds before the end, and they kick it to me in the corner, and I make basically what ends up being a game-winning 3.
Game winner.
And, I go crazy. The whole bench goes crazy. And, it was a fantastic moment because we needed that game as a team. And, after dropping 7 in a row, it wasn't really comfortable. So it was a huge celebration in the locker room. They poured water and, sodas all over me. Guys were jumping up and down like crazy, like we won the championship. And it was a lot of fun because we didn't really have a lot of great moments that year. We were 1 game short from the playoffs. Imagine. In the last game of the season, we're playing an away game against Memphis Grizzlies. And Marc Gasol, he has I don't want to over-exaggerate, but he has something like 38, 17, 9, and 6.
Just domination.
More or less, that type of game. So if we win, we make the playoffs. And if we lose, we don't. But if Memphis, if they win, they needed it for the home court advantage. So, for example, they were 6th. So if they win against us, they end up being like 3rd or 4th. So they also needed that game. And, Brooklyn ended up going instead of us. And they made the playoffs and played Atlanta. We didn't. So it was too bad because I was 1 game short of, having that playoff experience. Yeah. But that year in Indiana for me was great because after that game, I broke into the rotation. I had my shots. I had my set plays called for me. Guys were really looking for me, and I really felt comfortable in my role. I was a shooter. Didn't really have to do much else. My job description was really simple, and I could feel that the coach trusted me a lot, and that players trusted me. It was good. I really felt bad when I got traded, but that's reality of the NBA business.
For sure. And you also shot 40%. You led all rookies in 3-point percentage as well.
Yeah.
The numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie at all.
When I looked at the advanced stats at the time, I led the whole NBA in 3-point percentage for a couple of weeks. Not just the rookies, but the whole league. And I had Steph Curry behind me, JJ Redick, Joe Ingles, all those
That's
guys
crazy.
for like a short span after the All Star break. It was like a 2-3 week span where I was shooting like 50 something percent from a three. And I regret not screenshotting it at the time or
Yeah,
kind of capturing it, but just because
for
the list
sure.
it was a lot of fun to see my name on top of that list. But it
Yeah,
was easy, man. The set plays were really good. All I had to do was catch the ball and shoot the ball. So,
right.
for me,
The job was easy.
the job was easy. And once I got used to the 3-point line, it was really cool, man. So yeah, that experience really meant a lot for my confidence as well.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a few more, not to keep you forever, but
No, no, no. I like
um, uh,
I love talking to
but
you,
yeah,
man.
that's no, that's great. But so you're going from, so you get traded now
Yeah.
to Minnesota for Chase Budinger a year later, and like you said, Indiana. Even like I was looking at your retirement
Yeah.
post, and it seemed like they showed a lot of love. Those fans and that organization, a
Hmm.
lot of love and support to you. Now you get traded to Minnesota, which at the time is pretty much a rebuilding kind of situation with Wiggs
Man.
and Zach, and they got young talent and
Yeah.
KG, playing with him. So explain just a little bit how that experience was for you, going from a situation where you're so comfortable in your NBA, you're an international player
Yeah.
as well. So let's be real, it's not easy for you guys
Yeah.
to make that adjustment at that time because there wasn't a whole bunch of you at that time in
Right.
the league.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what was that like, going to, not to put a dark cloud over Minnesota, but kind of more of a rebuilding
But
situation?
it kind of was, to be honest, man. It really was. First of all, I got to tell you, like, I did my exit interviews at the end of the season with Indiana. So you do your exit interview
Mhm.
with Larry Bird, with Kevin Pritchard, and with Frank Vogel. So basically, like, three
Yeah.
top guys in the team. And all of
Hmm.
them made me feel so comfortable and good. I left those interviews thinking, like, I'm going to be a Pacer forever. Like, literally, I'm going to
Right.
finish my career with the Pacers. They love me so much over
Hmm.
here. It's a great fit. Couple of weeks after that, I get a phone call from Larry Bird saying, like, "Hey, I got news. Like, I traded you to Minnesota. I don't know if that's good or
Yeah.
bad, but I just did it."
Yeah.
I was so shocked. I can't even tell you, man. And I was on my way to a restaurant. I almost dropped my phone. I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, Minnesota. I'm thinking, like, how did this happen? Like, what just happened? Like,
Hmm.
he was like, "I traded you for Chase Budinger."
Hmm.
So imagine this. Like, they traded me for Chase Budinger and then ended up firing him a couple of months after that. So it was a
Oh my
one-on-one trade,
goodness.
and he stuck. He hung around Indy for maybe like 2 or 3 months, and then they just released him,
And
and
get
it
rid
was
of him.
all basically for nothing.
Right.
And I get to Minnesota, and it was a very strange team, man. KG, so Kevin Garnett, Tayshaun Prince, Andre
Hmm.
Miller, uh,
Hmm.
Kevin Martin. I don't know if you remember him. He was like a
Of
hell
course.
of a scorer, man. In Houston,
Oh
yeah,
man,
super weird shot, but he
what,
was making everything.
20 a game no matter what.
20 a
20 a game no
game,
matter
man.
what.
20 a game. That guy was really brutal. He could score the ball.
Hmm.
And so we had super old guys, and then on the other side you have Zach LaVine, Andrew
Hmm.
Wiggins, Carl Anthony
Hmm.
Towns, Shabazz Muhammad, like young
Hmm.
guys, man, like reckless, don't know what they're doing with themselves, first time playing in the
Right.
league. A lot of them don't even have like their own positions. Like, is Levine a
Hmm.
one or a two? Is Wiggins like two or
Yeah.
three? Who's doing what? Carl Anthony Towns,
Hmm.
is he a four? Is he a five? Like, how do we
Hmm.
play these guys? But the direction of the franchise at the time was like, we got to give the young guys playing time, regardless,
Yeah.
like no matter what. So listen, what happens? Like, I get traded and I fly to Minnesota for the medicals, and I talk to the coach at the time, Flip Saunders,
Hmm.
legendary Minnesota coach, and he was like, "Hey, I'm really excited to have you here. I know it was a trade. You might have had your feelings hurt, but I really want to play you. Like, you're a shooter. You have
Right.
great percentages. I love playing with shooters. Like, there's going to be a lot of room for
Hmm.
you. I see various ways in which I can use your game, and it's going to be great. Like, don't worry about anything."
Hmm.
3 weeks after that, Flip Saunders passes away.
Yeah, that was, so you were there when
I was
oh
there, man.
wow.
So he got
Yeah,
eaten
wow.
up by cancer, and he
Yeah.
died. And it was before our first game of the season. So we're all in shock,
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
and it was unbelievable. Really, like, for me, it was terrible also personally, but professionally, because all of a sudden
Of
Sam
course.
Mitchell is the coach, and Sam Mitchell really doesn't want to play me a lot.
Yeah.
So I struggled through the year. I had couple of good games. I was always trying to stay ready. So when my number get called, I produce. And but
Mm-hmm.
it was a great experience just playing with Kevin Garnett, man. That dude is so special. Full of stories, full of life, so energetic.
Mm-hmm.
And also I still have his poster on the wall in my kids' room. When I was a kid, growing up, I
Mm-hmm.
had his posters on the wall, and I ended up playing with him. So that was really a great experience.
Man,
Yeah,
wow, that's tough, and that's a big thing in the NBA too. Is certain coaches want you to play, but if that coach leaves and another coach comes in, he might have a completely different
exactly,
plan for you. So
exactly.
that could obviously impact the way
Yeah.
your career ends up. So in hindsight, looking back, let's just say you never were traded from Indy. I'm sure you've had dreams or thoughts about that. Do you feel like maybe your NBA career could have looked a little bit different, or how do you feel about that?
You know what? No, I feel like if I would have stayed in Indy, Paul George, he got healthy and he started playing again. And the reason why I
Yeah,
played was because he was hurt and he was recovering from
right.
the, broken leg injury.
Yeah,
And it
freak
worked out
injury.
great for me. It was a freak injury. But for me, it
Yeah,
was fantastic because I had a lot of playing time. And then
yeah.
once he came back, even, Solomon Hill, who was a three man at the time, he
Mm-hmm.
struggled breaking into the minutes because it kind of shifted everything because PG's got to play a lot. Of course,
Yeah.
he was a franchise player, so I feel like I really wouldn't play all that much. And then who knows? It ended up happening that Frank Vogel, who was my coach in Indy, brought me to Orlando my third year. So after my contract expired with Minnesota, after that year, I was
Mm-hmm.
basically a free agent, and then Vogel changed teams, and he went from Indiana to Orlando, and he called me up
Right.
immediately. He was like, "Hey, I want you in the team.
Yeah.
I loved having you in Indy," and
Mm-hmm.
he just signed me in Orlando. So it worked out well, some to some degree because I did get my 3 years in the NBA. And then I ended up playing for Orlando Magic, which was also a great experience. Got a chance to play with
Yeah.
Aaron Gordon, with Nikola Vucevic, with a lot of fantastic players over there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, you never know. You never know how things would have shaken
You
up.
never know.
You never know. You also look at your career and like, hey, if I would have stayed here another
For
year, or if
sure. For sure.
it,
But it worked. It still worked out. You've
yeah,
had
it
an
works
amazing
out. Yeah,
career,
it works out in
regardless.
the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Regardless.
hard to say.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. So this portion of the pod, I'm gonna go into some rapid fire. I'll just give you about 5 questions. Some of them are tough. Some of them are easy, I guess.
All right,
And we'll end it like that. So,
well, let's do it, man.
what would you say is the most memorable moment of your career, moment or season or time of your entire career? I know it's hard to name one, but if you could, what would you say?
Well, if I gotta, remember one moment is the moment in which Larry Bird kind of comes up to me and says, "I'm going to be an Indiana Pacer." So that feeling was
Mm-hmm.
really incredible for me, and that changed the whole thing around because it took me 20 years to get to that moment, and I always dreamt of making it to the NBA, but then when it actually happened,
Mm-hmm.
having him come up to me and being like, "Hey, it's going to happen," that was really surreal. So that's when I
That's
knew,
a big moment.
like, that might have been probably the best moment in my career. Also the game winner against Orlando, that was really good. But yeah, a
Mm-hmm.
couple of good ones, couple of game winners when I played in the Zaragoza against Valencia in the semifinals. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, one moment, if I would have to say one moment, that was signing for the Pacers.
Nice. Okay. What would you say is the most hostile environment that you've played in your career? Because I know NBA is one thing, but I know some of these leagues in Europe, man, those fans are diehard fans. So, what would you say is the most hostile game or playoff series or gym that you've played in that you remember?
Partizan Belgrade in Serbia, when I play them with any team. So any team from Croatia, if I play them with, Cibona or with Cedevita or with Split, like any team from Croatia, when I would play Partizan, it was insane. Like full packed
Mm-hmm.
arena, and they really, really like hate you, and they go out of their way to show you their hatred. It was so loud, so hostile. They're throwing coins at
Yeah.
you. They're pointing lasers in your eyes on free throws
Mm-hmm.
while you're shooting free throws. It was really incredibly hostile. I love that team, and I love watching them play, and love watching their fans. But when you're there on the
For sure.
court playing against them, it was just a whole other level of hatred, man. And it was really tough. You can't hear your own thoughts. You really can't hear your own
Right.
thoughts, and it was. It was incredible. Also, the finals of the Champions League that I played against AEK in Greece, we played against
Okay.
20,000 crazy Greek fans, and they were
Ooh.
taking their shirts off. They were half drunk, half of the game,
Mhm.
and they were getting ready to, storm the court in case AEK would have lost. And
Right.
that was also like that was the loudest I've ever heard any arena ever. Because Greek fans, they're also insane.
Oh, they're intense. They're intense.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
All right, I got three more for you. So, what was the most challenging moment of your career, and how did you overcome it?
Most challenging moment of my career. I'll tell you what it was. It was the decision I made when I played for Zaragoza, and it was a
Hmm.
conscious decision that I made. I'm going to become like a specialist shooter. It was basically like I remember where I was when I thought of it and when I made that decision,
Hmm.
and I was just like,
Hmm.
screw everything else, dude. I'm not dribbling the ball anymore. I'm not
Yeah.
posting up. I'm not driving. Like if I want to make
Hmm.
a name for myself, I gotta be the best in the world at one thing. And in
Right.
order for me to do that, I can't just, freestyle on the court anymore and just look for my points. Like because that it goes back to what I told you about distribution of shots of shot
Yeah.
attempts. Um, I
Hmm.
figured like, hey, I'm getting like 3 or 4 shot attempts per game. Like I gotta make the most out of it. So
Hmm.
it just seemed like every time I had a good game, I had 15 or 18 points. I would score like 3 or 4 3 pointers. Then I was like, why would
Hmm.
I even waste energy on everything else if I can just shoot threes and make a name for myself like that? I'm really good at it. Like
Right.
I'm just gonna focus on one thing and I'm gonna forget all other aspects of my game. So for me, that was super
Hmm.
hard because I was brought up to be a versatile player. I always
Hmm.
handle the ball well. I could feel like I have so many elements to my game, and all of them were good, but none of them were great.
Hmm.
So I felt like I can do everything on a
We're
basketball
great. Yeah.
court well enough to get by, to play in, like a mid-level team or whatever. But I wanted to reach the top
Hmm.
level. I want to be like in Real Madrid or Barcelona or the NBA. So for me, that was
Hmm.
really a hard decision to make because after that,
But it was,
for the rest of my career, I just got labeled as a
yeah,
shooter. And then
as a
it
shooter.
comes as
Yeah.
a consequence because people start looking at you differently. And then, the comments I would
Yeah.
get, it was like, he can't do shit else. He's just a shooter. He
Hmm.
doesn't even know how to dribble the ball.
Hmm.
He's like useless. If his shots doesn't go in, like he's useless on the court.
So much more pressure too.
But so it came with a price. It came with a price, but it was
Yeah.
definitely a conscious decision that I made. I don't regret it. It was the best decision I made in my career, but it was hard,
Hmm.
basically to not enjoy the game of basketball anymore in terms of playing the basketball. I was just like a
Hmm.
professional shooter.
For
So that
sure.
was yeah,
I think we spoke about that as teammates. I remember you
yeah,
us having that conversation a couple of years ago,
yeah,
and that's
yeah,
that's just such a. I wasn't expecting that. Like some people have been through injury or not playing time, but I can understand because it's
yeah,
like you've done something, you've done so many things, and now you're just labeling
yeah,
yourself to one thing.
yeah.
But at the
Imagine
same
like
time, in the NBA, that's when specialists became a thing. The Kyle
exactly.
Korvers and all that. So,
Yeah,
in essence, it worked out for you
it
to make
worked
that
out
decision,
perfectly
right?
because I caught the right
So,
wave, the wave of specialized shooters in the NBA, and I was also one of them. So, but imagine like put yourself in a position like you know your game, I know your game really
hmm,
well. So like just think
yeah,
about how would you feel if you would make a conscious decision to just make one thing. You're a guy that can do it
yeah,
all. Like you can
yeah.
drive, you can shoot, you got your pull up game, you got this and that.
Hmm.
So it's kind of it's tricky. It
For
was very
sure.
tricky.
For sure. For sure. All right,
Yeah.
we got two more.
All right.
So, what are your goals for the future?
Oh man, goals for the future are to live like a well balanced, life and to be satisfied with myself. I don't want to say be
Hmm.
happy because I don't really believe in happiness like that. Like you can never really
Hmm.
be happy for a long time, and life
Hmm.
is not about being happy. I feel like life is about finding a good balance and kind of
Hmm.
satisfaction with what you do. So basically,
For
just
sure.
trying to pursue things that satisfy me, to have fulfillment in my day, and to spend quality time with my family, and just be surrounded with
Hmm.
positive and good people. That's pretty much it. No really
For sure.
goals in terms of like, hey, I want to conquer the business world or I want to
Hmm.
do this or that. I want to have an impact in my community, impact the other people around me. I definitely
Hmm.
want to do well in the projects that I'm involved with and to
For
learn a
sure.
lot. But it's just a process that I'm going to go through in the next couple of years. Getting adjusted
Hmm.
to the real life So I'll see how it ends up, but definitely, finding a good balance for a healthy life, man. That's pretty much the goal.
For sure. And I think you'll be able to do so because you got so many good things going for you, man. So
Yeah,
and you're a
we'll
good
see.
dude
Now,
as well.
no,
So
thanks, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
yeah. Last question. I'm gonna ask this to all of my
All right.
guests. What does "stay true, be great" mean to you?
Ooh, man, staying true to yourself is so important, man. So important. I can relate because for me as a guy, I was always like the nice guy on the court, right? And they would always tell me
Mm-hmm.
like, "Hey, you got to be more aggressive. You got to like shoot the ball more. You can't pass so much." Like my family was on my ass the whole time, and even my brother,
Mm-hmm.
before he was my coach, he was like, "Ah, you got to be more like rugged, and you got to be tell people to go fuck themselves, and like you got to
Mm-hmm.
be more selfish. You got to do this." But at the point in time where I realized I got to stay true to myself, because I'm not
Mm-hmm.
like that, and it was really a
Right.
struggle for me because I was like, what I have to change my identity now? Like I can't really do that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not that type of guy. But in the moment where I decided, like, hey, screw that, I'm just gonna follow my instincts and be myself and see where it takes me.
Mm-hmm.
That's when things really, really, started opening up
For
for me
sure.
because then you're kind of in sync with the universe, right? So that's what
Mm-hmm.
stay true to yourself. It leads you to be great, right? I mean, you're going to be the
Mm-hmm.
best version of yourself if you have a healthy relationship with your identity, with who you are, and kind of the way you live your life. So those are the two things that come to mind when you mention, stay true, be great. I feel like
Nice.
that's a synonym. Like, be true to yourself, be honest with yourself, and live your life accordingly. With your characteristics, with your mindset. Don't let other people tell you the way to live your life because what
For
you feel in
sure.
your instincts is, what's true. And
So
that's going to
key.
ultimately lead you to, leading a great life. Because if you're not happy with, who you are or how you're acting, it's always like,
Mm-hmm.
something bad around it. So I would say that's my answer to the question.
Man, that was like the perfect answer too.
Yeah, I'm happy I
uh,
provided you a
that
good answer. It's a good question though. It really is. It really is.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great answer.
Yeah, it's a good life
Well,
question, man.
Damo.
Listen, there's a podcast in the Spain. They're finishing with
Yeah.
their last question with like, you gotta tell them when was the last time you had sex or how much money you got in
Yeah.
your bank account. Like you gotta answer one of the two.
Oh wow.
So when you said I'm gonna hit you with the last question, I was like getting ready to like,
You were getting
but you
ready.
went really like deep and philosophical with it. So that's good, man.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
All right, man.
yeah.
This finishes up the first episode of the Stay True Be Great podcast. Again, I'm your host, Jared Jackson, with Damjan Rudez. I just want to thank you so much, bro, for taking the time.
Man,
It's been a long time since we spoke. It was a great conversation, a lot of gems,
yeah.
crazy experience that you've had, man. I wish you the best in everything that you do moving forward, and I'm sure we'll stay in touch, and hopefully we'll be able to catch up soon, and over the next year or so.
Definitely, my brother. Thanks a lot for having me. I wish you nothing but the best with this season, with the podcast. I think it's a fantastic project that you got yourself involved with, and I'm sure you're going to do great, man.
My guy, my guy.
Yes.
All right, man. Thanks a
All
lot,
right.
bro. You
Yeah.
take care. All right. See you.
See you.
Peace.